The grandfather clock in the corner ticked unevenly, each second stretching like it knew something I didn't. I sat at the scratched kitchen table, fingers running over the grooves carved from years of family meals in our quiet Midwest home. A slightly lopsided yellow cake sat in front of me, my foster mom Elaine's annual tradition. Even though I had just turned 20, she fumbled with 20 blue candles, her hands shaking as she tried to arrange them in a circle. Her wedding ring glinted in the slanted afternoon sunlight pouring through the window. Robert stood beside her in his dark suit, the one he saved for serious occasions like court dates or foundation events. "Happy birthday, Lena," he said, his smile forced and tight at the corners. Neither of them met my eyes directly. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. "Thanks," I replied softly, watching Elaine struggle with the lighter. The silence dragged on, deliberate and rehearsed. Robert cleared his throat and adjusted his tie, a nervous tick I'd noticed since I was little. "Lena, now that you're 20, there's something important we need to discuss." Elaine froze, 5 candles still unlit. Her eyes flicked to Robert. He continued, voice flat. "We've waited until we felt you were ready. You were adopted when you were 3. The words landed like a slow punch. Elaine slid a plain envelope across the worn oak table, past the tilting cake. "There's $400 inside, and the address for hostel downtown. They have reasonable monthly rates." Robert straightened his tie again. "We did our duty for the state. You're an adult now. It's time you built your own life." Elaine's voice cracked at the end. I stared at the envelope without touching it, searching their faces for any resemblance I'd missed over 17 years. There was none. I let the moment stretch, watching discomfort settle into their postures. "Is there more you want to tell me about Dr. Evelyn Grant?" I asked calmly. Robert's face drained of color. Elaine's coffee mug slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood, dark liquid splashing across her shoes. "How did you?" Robert started, then stopped, lawyer instincts kicking in. 2 months earlier, while hunting for holiday decorations in the garage, I'd pried open a metal box with a broken lock. Beneath old tax files was a birth certificate. Lena Harper Grant. Mother Dr. Evelyn Grant. Father unknown. Weeks of library research followed, newspaper archives on microfilm, public records showing Dr. Evelyn's warnings about unethical experiments at Stonebridge Institute, where Robert once served as chief financial officer. "I'm going to pack," I said, standing. The cake sat abandoned, wax dripping onto the frosting. In my room, I folded clothes into a backpack I'd bought weeks ago. Through thin walls, I heard their whispered fight, Elaine's voice rising in panic, Robert cutting her off sharply. Dinner was silent agony. Elaine glanced at me repeatedly, mouth opening and closing without sound. Robert stared at his plate. I paused at my bedroom door one last time, memorizing the faded wallpaper, the bookshelf of classics, the window that rattled in winter drafts. When I left through the front door, backpack slung over my shoulder and the hostel address in my pocket, Robert offered a ride. "No," I said simply and walked down Maple Lane without looking back. The suitcase they prepared stayed behind with their version of events. I carried the truth instead. The downtown hostel smelled of cheap pine cleaner and old smoke. My tiny room, barely 12 by 14 feet with ceiling water stains, cost $30 a night. At that rate, my money wouldn't last 2 weeks. I pinned newspaper clippings to the wall, building a growing collage of yellowed headlines and grainy photos on the faded floral paper. At the center, a medical journal photo of Dr. Evelyn Grant, as serious and focused my face, but shaped by different choices. The night manager, Vince, knocked lightly before entering, despite the broken lock. "Burning the midnight oil again?" His eyes skimmed my wall without real interest. Folks here learn not to pry. Just checking you're okay. You've been holed up 3 days. I folded an article. Thanks for the extra blanket. He nodded and left. Door not latching fully. Nothing worked perfectly at the hostel, which suited me fine. No expectations in a place already crumbling. I returned to my timeline, connecting pins with red string. Robert Thompson, CFO of the Lang Foundation, 1998 to 2005. Dr. Victor Lang, founder of Stonebridge Institute, now overseeing multiple Midwest hospitals. Dr. Harlan Reed, the psychiatrist who signed my mother's commitment papers days after her formal complaint about experimental treatments. The library microfilm reader became my constant companion. Mrs. Ellis, the librarian with gnarled hands and keen eyes, stopped asking what I researched. Yesterday, she left a sealed envelope with a handwritten list of archived complaints, 5 women committed shortly after challenging Stonebridge or Dr. Lang. My mother wasn't the first, but she got closest to exposing them. My desk vanished under photocopies and notes. I created a color-coded system, yellow for finances, blue for medical, green for connections. The pattern was damning. Robert oversaw payments to guardians after institutionalizing employees who raised concerns. Adoption records showed rushed processing. No background checks. No search for relatives. That same month, Robert received a bonus matching a year's salary. I wasn't rescued. I was contained. Hunger gnawed. But I stuck to vending snacks and fountain water. Money had to stretch. At the courthouse, retired clerk Millie slipped me an access card. 3rd floor, room B. You've got 30 minutes before rounds. There I found quarterly payments from a shell company to the Thompsons, labeled dependent support. They stopped last month, my 20th birthday. The paper trail showed my mother's career systematically erased, license suspended, research retracted, positions terminated. A thorough wipeout. Mrs. Ellis found me one afternoon, sliding a worn folder across the table. These shouldn't still exist. They ordered destruction during the probe. I kept one. Inside, my mother's original whistleblower statement detailing behavioral conditioning experiments on women labeled oppositional or hysterical, single mothers, survivors, anyone who questioned authority. Treatments aimed at enforcing compliance. Back in my room, I examined one of Robert's foundation donation envelopes. The return address matched the logo on my mother's commitment papers, his signature authorizing her indefinite therapeutic residency. Mrs. Ellis found me in the library basement days later, twisting her arthritic hands. They're not in the public system, she whispered, glancing at the stairs. When Stonebridge closed, certain patients were moved quietly. Special cases. She slid a hand-drawn map over a remote wooded road leading to Willow Creek Behavioral Center. Security badge access only. Minimal staff. High security. That night, I drove my beat-up Honda along the unmarked access road. Branches scraped the windows like warnings. After miles of isolation, the stone facility appeared, narrow windows, razor wire fence, single guard booth. A discreet sign read Willow Creek Behavioral Center. Private property. Was she there? Just 2 hours from the house where I grew up? I parked a quarter-mile away and studied through binoculars. Cameras everywhere. Limited staff parking. Pharmacy truck unloading unmarked crates. Designed for containment, not healing. My mother was behind those walls. The real question was how far I'd go to tear down the system and the people profiting from her silence, starting with the man I once called Dad. The bathroom mirror in my hostel room showed a stranger after the cheap chestnut dye job. I rehearsed my cover. Angela Brooks, social work grad student. Thesis on long-term institutional care. The words felt awkward despite weeks of practice. Forged ID and application sat beside a notebook of detailed questions. People rarely challenged someone who looked official and dull. The drive to Willow Creek took 40 minutes on twisting back roads. The building rose like a Gothic relic from the woods. My heart hammered as I approached the visitor entrance. Face blank. The receptionist scanned my documents indifferently. Purpose of visit? Research interview with patient Evelyn Grant for my thesis on care environments. I handed over the forged approval letter. She stamped a pass and buzzed me through. The antiseptic smell hit hard, bleach covering something sour. Shuffling footsteps echoed in the halls as patients moved under attendant watch. The visiting area had bolted tables spaced apart, one guard by the exit. Then I saw her. My mother sat by the window, frail hands in her lap, hair in a loose knot. Sunlight through reinforced glass caught dust motes dancing around her. Her gaze was distant, vacant. Research hadn't prepared me for how diminished she looked. I approached slowly, setting my notebook down. Dr. Grant? I'm Angela Brooks. Thank you for speaking with me. Her eyes focused slowly, pupils adjusting as medication haze thinned. She reached toward my face, but stopped short. They said you'd forget me, she whispered, voice hoarse. That you'd be safer. Recognition cracked something deep inside me. 16 years erased in 5 words. I remember enough, I said, opening the notebook as a shield. We have about 20 minutes before rounds. She glanced at the guard. Tell me what happened, I urged quietly. Behavioral experiments at Stonebridge, she murmured, maintaining a pleasant mask. Lang called them breakthroughs for resistant cases. She described sleep deprivation, isolation, unconsented drugs, targeted at women who challenged power, single moms, survivors. I was psychiatry head. I found the files. Suicides labeled failures. I confronted Lang. Filed reports. 3 days later. Committed as delusional. Your father arranged it, she added. Meaning Robert. He handled transfers, custody, called it protection. Her hand slid under the chair cushion, passing a small fabric-bound notebook beneath the table. I've documented everything, 17 years of protocols. They think the meds make me compliant. The journal went into my bag. There's a nurse, Margot Hayes. She left last year but visits patients. Service entrance. Thursdays at 4. Tell her I sent you. Our time ended as a medication card appeared. I stood steadily. I'll come back. I know, she said, eyes softening. You have my eyes. 3 days later. I waited by the service entrance, collar up against the chill wind. At 4 sharp, a woman in her 50s approached with a checkered basket. Margot Hayes, I asked softly. Evelyn Grant sent me. Fear flashed, then resignation. I've waited for the right person. Not here. Lakeside Diner. 1 hour. Over burnt coffee. Margot slid a flash drive across. Medication logs. Unauthorized protocols. Schedules. Her voice low amid clattering dishes. Your mother wasn't alone. But they feared her most. She pushed a manila folder over. Pediatric records, my records. Experimental compounds disguised as routine shots and vitamins. Signed by Robert Thompson. My unexplained childhood illnesses. Constant doctor visits. Daily pills Elaine insisted were just for health. There are others, Margot said. Children of whistleblowers. Placed with paid guardians. Monitored for inherited instability. Rage crystallized cold and precise. They tried to chemically erase my mother's influence from my developing mind. This ends now, I told her. All of it. Back at the hostel. The cracked mirror reflected my split self, the person they raised versus who I was becoming. My wall had become a full war room. Clippings, documents, red string connecting everything to the Lang Foundation and Robert. I'd spent nearly all my cash, but time stolen mattered more. I transcribed my mother's ciphered journal nightly. Dosages spiked before inspections. Midnight transfers. Dissenting staff reassigned. The radiator clanked tepid air. Time was running short. I chose a crowded diner for the meeting, 3 exits. Noise masking talk. Tessa Monroe stirred her coffee endlessly. Former investigative journalist blacklisted after pursuing similar corruption. I tried telling the story 10 years ago. Tax audits. Wiped drives. Sources recanting. She examined the documents. Your mother built an ironclad case. Even medicated. We planned distribution. Multiple independent outlets. Podcasts. Advocacy groups. Unique packages. Dead man switch. We're making it too loud to bury. Returning late. I found Robert in the shabby hostel lobby. Suit out of place. Lena. We need to talk. I led him to the camera-monitored common room. He noticed. Your mother had unstable genetics. We protected you from that legacy. How did you find me? I interrupted. Silence confirmed surveillance. Police contacted me about concerning behavior, I said calmly. Interesting timing. That evening, Margot texted. Security doubled. Night transfer planned. Someone accessed my library account. 3 days later, the first releases hit. Medical Ethics Podcast aired anonymous testimony with my mother's audio. Screenshots spread online. Reporters called. Anonymous tips poured in. The hostel manager warned me. 2 men asking about you. Showed badges. No cards. I texted Tessa. Accelerate. By morning, I relocated to a friend's apartment. Major outlets picked it up. The foundation denied everything as a smear. Their statement rang hollow against mounting evidence. I woke at 4:17 a.m. to Tessa's call. Turn on the news. Headline scrolled. Allegations of abuse at Willow Creek. Washington outlet had financials. Channel 9 ran footage. NPR featured employees. Dr. Victor Lang stammered at a podium, completely unfounded. 50-year history of care. The reporter pressed. Documents showed Robert's signature authorizing Evelyn Grant's commitment. Social media exploded with Willow Creek truth. Former patients shared stories. State Medical Board called emergency session. Rock Hollow admins on leave. Congressman demanded federal probe. I called Margot at 7:05. Chaos inside. Files being secured. But staff stretched thin with media and families. Tonight, I said. We move tonight. 16 hours later, I parked near the service entrance. News reported Robert's home searched. Lang questioned.
Margot met me.
Slipping a staff badge. Discharge papers filed yesterday. Hallways eerily quiet. Most staff handling crisis or destroying evidence. 3rd floor minimally supervised. Margot swiped us into room 317. My mother sat on the bed. Small bag packed. Hair combed. Wearing a cardigan over hospital clothes. I knew you'd come, she said. Eyes clear. Schedule changed. They're distracted. I crossed the room, taking her cold but steady hands. No matter what they did, I was always coming back. Margot watched the door. 5 minutes to shift change. We exited through service. No alarms. The night air tasted sweet after antiseptic staleness. She paused, tilting her face to the stars. The Big Dipper. I could only see 1 star from my window. In the car, she recited memories. You won the 5th grade spelling bee with quintessential. Broke your arm at 12 climbing the maple. Allergic to strawberries. Her hand found mine. The radio reported Robert's reputation crumbling. Lang's team distancing. More suspensions. Class action lawsuit filed. I switched it off. Tonight was about us. They thought burying truth would make it vanish, she said softly. They forgot buried things can grow. Headlights cut darkness as we crossed the state line toward a new start. Morning sun spilled across our kitchen table in the coastal cottage 6 months later. My mother, now using Catherine, worked a crossword, tea steaming beside her. The walls felt less temporary, weathered by salt air. 23 across, she said, tapping her pencil. 6 letters. What was once lost? Found, I answered. Buttering toast. She laughed easily now. Unlike those first rusty weeks post-rescue. Medication withdrawal brought tremors, nightmares, memory gaps. I logged good days in blue ink, hard ones in black. Entries turned bluer steadily. Our cottage perched where pavement met gravel. Windows facing east, so she could track natural light after 16 years without it. Mornings, she'd stand by the glass, palms pressed, absorbing sunrise. We used subtle new names, Catherine for her, Marie for me. Neighbors saw us as quiet mother-daughter transplants. Bakeries saved bread. Librarians suggested uplifting novels. Tell me about my 3rd birthday again, I asked. You wore yellow overalls in November. Carried stuffed rabbit hoppy everywhere, missing one ear. I baked chocolate cupcakes with strawberry frosting. You ate frosting first, then cake. Methodical even then. Each memory rebuilt the bridge across stolen years. The TV murmured low, Catherine still startled at loud sounds. News showed Lang escorted from offices. Investigation expanding to 3 states. They found records in Connecticut, she noted quietly. Tessa updated us securely. Her exposé won awards. Robert faced 13 charges. 6 psychiatrists suspended. Congressional hearings upcoming. My laptop chimed. Another survivor message. Claire Rothman, Catherine whispered. They said she killed herself. Very much alive. Organizing testimony. 53 former patients connected. Your statement would matter. Stories echoed. Brilliant women silenced by manufactured diagnoses. Later, we walked the shoreline at golden hour. Her step stronger. Frame less fragile. She pulled a hidden photo from her pocket, one kept in the facility library copy of Jane Eyre for 16 years, me as toddler on her lap. Both laughing. I always felt something missing, I admitted as waves erased our footprints. Even before the documents. She took my hand. They took everything else, but couldn't erase that. The system cracked wider. Federal indictments loomed. Survivors' voices multiplied. Yet questions lingered. How many others remained hidden? How deeply did the rot spread in institutions meant to heal? We rebuilt quietly, but the truth we'd unleashed roared on without us. Justice imperfect. Ongoing.
Hard one.
The ethical weight pressed. What price truth when families, careers, lives were collateral? Had we truly escaped, or simply traded one cage for watchful freedom? Some endings were beginnings disguised. Buried truths didn't stay buried forever. Over the following weeks, more messages arrived through secure channels. Each survivor account mirrored fragments of Catherine's experience, women dismissed as unstable for demanding accountability. One woman, a former nurse at Stonebridge, described witnessing midnight drug trials on non-consenting patients. Another shared how her complaints about patient neglect led to sudden breakdown, diagnosis, and loss of custody of her own children. We didn't rush to join hearings. Safety first. But Catherine began drafting her statement in our shared journal, precise, clinical, yet deeply human. They weaponized psychiatry against dissent, she wrote one evening. Diagnoses became tools of control. I watched her hands steady on the pen, marveling at the woman who preserved her mind through chemical fog and isolation. Do you regret confronting them? I asked softly. She set the pen down. Regret would mean they won completely. I protected future patients by speaking, even if it cost us everything. Our evenings often ended on the porch, listening to waves. She taught me fragments of her pre-institution life, research passions, late-night lab breakthroughs, the joy of discovery. I shared my childhood fragments that felt off, the foggy mind, suppressed dreams, constant monitoring disguised as care. One afternoon, Tessa relayed that Robert had taken a plea deal, testifying against Lang in exchange for a reduced sentence. The foundation dissolved under lawsuits. Willow Creek faced permanent closure. Yet whispers of similar programs in other states persisted, powerful men protecting empires by silencing inconvenient women. The question haunted me, in a society quick to label strong women hysterical, how many voices remained buried? How many children grew up chemically altered, disconnected from their heritage of courage? Catherine squeezed my hand one evening as sunset painted the sky. We can't save everyone, but we broke their silence wide open. That's the beginning of real change. As stars emerged, I felt the weight lift slightly. We'd reclaimed what they tried to erase: connection, memory,
Fight.
but the moral shadow lingered. Truth demanded sacrifice. Families shattered. Institutions exposed. Yet human nature's hunger for control endured. Some truths, once freed, grew roots too deep to uproot again. Ours was one such truth, messy, painful, ultimately liberating. The daughter who never forgot. The mother who never stopped resisting. Together, we stood as proof that buried things don't just grow, they endure.